Welcome to Critical DMG, a podcast about two best friends who might have grown up but never grew out of their love for the Game Boy. We will be playing and reviewing every North American title released on Nintendo's original handheld console. This is episode 27. I'm Tony, and leave it to a superhero to bring in a really, really good game.
Oh, and I'm Jeff, and today we're talking about Batman. Yeah, so Batman the video game. Based on your intro, I think you would recommend this. Is that accurate?
Oh, I would. I'm not burying the lead on this one. This one shot up to the top of my little like hidden ranking system pretty fast.
Yeah, I think I'm also a yes. Maybe a little bit of an asterisk there, but I also think I am a yes on this one.
Yeah, I have some gripes too, but we'll get there.
We will get there. But before we do that, give us the back of the box.
Oh boy. So a note on the back of the box on this one that I thought was really funny is the way that it's written reminds me of like a clickbaity YouTube video title. There are so many spots on the back of the box that are just like randomly capitalized. And I know it's because they're like trademark terms like Gotham City or Joker or whatever, but it's just really funny how just randomly throughout this block of text, there's just words in all caps.
Yeah, the manual's the same.
I totally forgot about that. That's pretty funny. Anyway, as we were, Batman the video game. He's totally new, totally tough, and he'll stop at nothing to make sure justice prevails. From the dark streets of Gotham City to the deepest corners of the criminal underworld comes the caped crusader as you've never seen him before. Incredibly strong, armed to the teeth, and ready to put his life on the line for the sake of all on a search and destroy mission to end the Joker's reign of terror. He leaps, he flies, he dodges enemy fire and delivers it right back with a vengeance. This is no kid stuff. This is as real as video gaming gets. If you liked what you saw in the movie, you're gonna love what you see here. Because this time around, Batman is all business, and he won't let anything stand in his way. This game pack for use with the Game Boy Compact video game system.
Ooh, I love that little thrown in at the end. So this is a Batman game. It is based off of the 1989 Batman movie from, I guess, directed by Tim Burton.
Mm-hmm.
It was released in June of 1990. I believe it was a port of the NES version.
It's not quite a port. Like, there are definitely some differences between those.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're based off the same movie.
And published by Sunsoft. So I think a publisher that we have not seen yet, but that's kind of it. It's Batman based off the movie, and
yeah, we haven't seen Sunsoft yet. I'm pretty sure, 20-something episodes deep. I can't keep them all straight anymore. But I don't think we've seen Sunsoft yet, but they are a known commodity in especially this era of gaming. I mean, if you didn't know them for something on the Game Boy necessarily, you probably know them from something on the Nintendo, like the Batman game that they made. Pretty good pedigree, all things considered. They handled this one the same way as they handled the one on the NES from what I saw. It was basically like actually some of the original members of the NES development team also just worked on this one. So it was like sort of making the same game, but not quite. And there's definite differences between the two of them. For anybody who's seen this movie, like Jeff said, this is based on the 1989 Batman, Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, Batman from that time. This game is sort of close, like a little bit more on track, along for what you might expect that story to be telling. The NES one is not. The NES one takes a lot of liberties with like that whole Batman story. So I think when we get into the mechanics section, we can go over what is probably the number one, are we sure this is Batman? thing going on in this game. So I don't have anything else. I'm ready to get in there and make that reveal.
Yeah, let's get into that and talk about the mechanics. So, Batman, as you can imagine, action game. Action platformer is kind of what I would call it, but action game. Your goal is to defeat Joker and his henchmen. So, pretty standard Batman plotline there. And yeah, it pretty much follows along with the movie and what happened in the movie. There are two different type of stages. There are what they call action stages and shooter stages. At least that's what the manual that I found called them. Controls, pretty simple. Your D-pad moves you around. But in the action stage, A jumps, B shoots. And in the shooting stages, A shoots forward and B shoots backwards. And we'll get into that a little bit more. But I guess not to bury the lead too much, you shoot.
Batman's got a gun.
Batman has a gun.
He's laying these fools out. They're gone.
Yeah, and it is, as far as anyone can tell, it's not a stun gun. It's not a, anything like that. It is just a straight gun.
He's just shooting them.
Yep.
It's just shooting them in cold blood.
The closest thing I think it comes to Batman is you can get a power-up that makes the gun shoot batarangs.
Right.
Question mark on how all of that works. But for the most part, it is, just shooting little orbs around the screen. And when you hit a bad guy, they disappear. So not very Batman, if you ask me.
It's like Super Mario Land with a gun.
I've seen that, but I don't think Nintendo would ever publish that. With that said, Tony, there are about 4 stages. Did you defeat the Joker and all of that? How was your gameplay?
I came so close.
Oh, yeah?
I went through this one shot, and I was playing on my Game Boy Pocket, so I didn't have access to any modern accoutrement of our gaming scene here. No save states, no nothing like that. This was as original as I could get it, and I got to literally the last level before the final boss fight, and I just could not make it happen. I probably played, I want to say, for only about like 40-ish minutes. It was really not that long.
Okay.
And I made it through almost the entire game without getting any game overs until I got to basically the very end. And that was just frustrating on a level that really kind of soured the rest of the game for me, but not enough to like completely ruin my opinion. As soon as I was done with it on my Game Boy that way, and I had told my 9-year-old because he'd asked me how it had gone, my first response to him was that if I had had save states, I would have already beaten it. Because that was the only thing keeping me from getting through to the Joker. Literally, the final boss of the game was the very last level. So,
did you use a continue or anything, or?
Yeah, I did get game overs, I think twice. I think I got 2 game overs before I called it and just decided I was going to turn it off. I still had the quiz to do and other stuff, and I knew I had seen everything. I knew I was at the end of the game. So I turned it off, and that means that I would have had to do it all over again. But I told my 9-year-old if I had had save states, I would have beaten it. I would have beaten it on my first time through, because all I would have needed to do was save state my way through that final level. But I was doing that, old school. So I made it 99% of the way, and then I took my pickaxe home.
Yeah, about the same. I made it to stage 4, and I did make a save state in the front of stage 4, but this was before I realized that was the last stage. So I had kind of been playing, I think, probably about the same, maybe 40, 50 minutes at that point. Took a break, and I just never went back to actually finish it once I realized that was the last stage. The game is broken down into 4 stages, and I appreciate the manual kind of breaks it down very easily for you. So stage 1 and 2 have 3 areas. Stage 3 and 4 have 2 areas, and areas are essentially just the levels, so very similar to Super Mario Land, 1-1, 1-2, etc. And then there are, I'm going to say 2.5 bosses. The manual only says 2, which is Joker to begin with when he becomes Joker. I guess maybe spoilers for the 1989 Batman movie. But
yeah, because it is pretty close. And they even call him Jack in the beginning of the game. They don't say Joker. They call him Jack. And then you fight him as just a normal guy. And then he falls into the acid and becomes the Joker.
Yep. And then you fight him again at the end of the game. And then stage 3, which I was not expecting it. It's a shoot 'em up stage. You're flying the Batwing and using that. And that's why you have the ability to shoot forwards and backwards, as we were saying in the control section. But you do have kind of a final enemy that you're fighting, but it's not considered a boss. I quite like that stage.
I mean, it was a really nice surprise to see them, but literally, like, it was just like beating into my head Super Mario Land with a gun. Like, literally, just like Super Mario Land, it deviates from the action platforming to do a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up stage. It was good. I enjoyed that level. I will say that as nice as it is that they do let you hold the button down for auto-fire,
yeah,
it does get really busy on screen, and I didn't struggle, but like, it's a good thing I've played a lot of Cuphead, I guess is what I'll say, because when you get to some of the boss or like mini boss or whatever you want to call them, you know, like the big flying plane vehicles or whatever, airships, like the big airships, whatever, there are a couple points where there are just bullets flying everywhere. Yeah,
it becomes very hard to sight read what's going on. And I definitely lost quite a few lives to kind of just trying to figure out what was going on. Once I figured it out, it became a lot easier to kind of know where I needed to be, how to move and whatnot. But you don't have that much health. If you get hit, it's not an instant game over or, you know, death.
Right.
You do have a health bar that does not replenish, or you can't get any power-ups to replenish that when you're in the Batwing. So that's a little bit of a feel bad, I think. But I agree with you. There are definitely a lot of times in that section where it's kind of just like, okay, tank a few shots so you can figure out where you need to be and then hope you don't get hit again.
The rest of the game is not like that. The rest of the game, up until the very end, is honestly pretty manageable.
Agreed.
And I say that knowing full well that we've played a bunch of Game Boy games so far. You know, obviously, I've been playing games of this ilk since I was old enough to hold a controller in my hands, pretty much. So, like, I know my way around an action platformer, you know, being totally immodest for a moment, I guess. Like, it was not a difficult game. I could see struggling as a kid. Like, if I had this game as a child, I could see having a much harder time with it.
Yeah.
But for the roughly 45 minutes or so that I spent with it, it was really not that bad. The shoot 'em up level is really the only time, apart from the very end, where things get really hairy. The rest of it is mostly just pretty standard action platformer stuff. You know what other game it reminds me of, which is not a Game Boy game that we've had, is Darkwing Duck on the NES. Have you played that?
I have not, but I feel like I've seen it.
Yeah, it's another of the, you know, classic like Capcom Disney games that are, you know, of that pedigree. But it feels very much like this, like running, jumping, shooting, lots of power-ups, lots of different things that you can pick up, different ways to traverse the levels and stuff. Very similar to that, but this game, the jump is kind of like soft here. I don't really know how else to describe it. I wouldn't say it's floaty.
Yeah.
But like, you don't really feel the gravity of when you are making the jumps or when Batman's landing. And so it kind of makes it difficult to judge when and where you're able to actually cross a gap.
Yeah.
And most of the times that I would end up dying weren't because I had taken enough hits and I ran out of health. It was because I either misjudged a jump and I fell into a pit, or I tried to like correct my trajectory mid-air, and they basically do not let you do that. You can do it ever so slightly, but it's not enough to really save your bacon.
Yeah, I thought the platforming felt like relatively good. I was surprised with how good it felt, but I did think it felt floaty. You know, that was a note that I had, is it did feel a bit floaty. And yeah, there were definitely some times where 100% agree. You thought this was going to be an easy jump and it was not. Or, you know, I did watch the speed run, 10 minutes and 33 seconds for whoever cares. But there were some jumps that they were making that didn't look like they were, you know, frame perfect or like super precise. They were just making them with relative ease, and they looked way further than anything I would have tried. So yeah, I can agree with you. The jumping felt a little bit off, but you could correct mid jump, and I think that made it feel a lot better.
I also looked at the speed run, just like the current world record run. So I did see the jumps you're talking about, and they do show that if you know what you're doing, like obviously if you've practiced the run a bunch, you can safely judge just how far of a jump that you know you're able to make. And yeah, absolutely. Some of them look like, wow, I never would have thought I would have been able to make that. Like I would have absolutely thought I would have fallen into a pit and died.
Yeah. I guess another thing that we've mentioned multiple times but haven't quite gotten into is there are multiple power-ups. Only on the action stages, so when you're playing as Batman himself, you start with a normal weapon, and you can get an S, which is a shot weapon.
And worthless.
A W, which is a wave weapon. A P, which is a power weapon. R, batarang,
The best.
for some reason. T, tranquilizer weapon. And then you have essentially an extra gun, a debuff that removes one of your like firing ones.
Oh, the worst.
Yeah. You have a Batwing, you have a faster Batwing, which just essentially circles around you. You have a smoke bullet, you have a bonus, you have a heart, you have an extra life.
It's so much.
There are a lot of power-ups.
No, and not just a lot. There are too many power-ups here. It is in my notes. There are too many things to pick up here.
And it's not like, you know, Nemesis. We mentioned how if you picked up the little power-up things, it would kind of cycle through your power-up bar, and you could kind of choose what you want, and you were never really hurt for picking up power-ups.
Not here.
Yeah, there are power-ups that are not only actively hurtful, you know, the -1 projectile power-up, but then the weapons all are quite different. So if you pick up the batarang or the power weapon, I would say those are probably like the two best weapons. They allow you to shoot through walls. They have higher damage output, all of that. If you pick up a shot weapon, it then really hinders your performance because it decreases the range, and it
sucks.
Yeah, I don't know. It felt like once I picked up the weapon that I wanted, I would actively avoid power-ups.
Yes.
Because
they're hurtful to the rest of your gameplay.
Yeah, I guess we should mention the power-ups are found in different colored blocks. So there are blocks, again, very Mario-esque.
Exactly.
But there are white blocks that you can shoot and they explode, or you can use them for platforming. And then there are slightly darker blocks. Those are the ones that contain the power-ups. So if you shoot them, they explode, the power-up is then there. There are times when they're not avoidable. When you shoot them, it's really hard to progress past that place without picking up that power-up. And yeah, if it's a detrimental one, then you're kind of in a bad spot. And it seems like they purposefully put the bad ones in places like that.
There is no way that this game was designed without malicious intent. Just 100%. There are a couple places And I'm sure that some of this will be in my footage. I don't know that it'll get to the very end of the game, but I'm sure some of this will be in the footage. There are definitely parts where you can make the jump or get past a power down. That's what me and my 9-year-old had been calling them.
Mm-hmm.
Like the minus gun power down or whatever you want to call it, that like reduces the amount of projectiles you're able to shoot or whatever. It's very Castlevania. For anybody looking for an analog here on this system, it's very Castlevania. The gun pickups are like the sub-weapons in that once you get the one that you want, you have to actively avoid the rest of them for the rest of the time you're playing. And the gun speed pickup, or whatever you want to call it, is basically like the double and triple special weapon pickup that you can get in Castlevania. It just makes it so you can throw more things faster.
Yeah.
The difference here being is it goes up to 7, which I almost got. I managed to get to 6. I don't think I ever got to 7. But like, if you get one of these power downs, it reduces that. And, you know, obviously it's not the end of the world, but especially once you get to the boss fights, you really need to lay on the bullets a lot, because the Joker and the Jack, you know, whatever, pre-Joker, like they're bullet sponges. They take quite a number of hits, no matter really what gun you're using. So getting a negative power up is really a pain, and sometimes you can get around them. You know, if you are really good with your jumping, you can like go over them or maybe underneath them without dying or whatever. But there is definitely a part, I don't remember what area it's in, I think it's in area 4, where you are running through this like maze, I guess we'll call it, and there are parts of the maze that you just fall through. They're not distinguished from the rest of the area. You can't like tell where the floor is going to give out on you. You just fall through it. If you don't know where you're going, you're just going to fall through to the next level. And if you fall to the bottom, one of the areas has 2 destroyable blocks, and both of those blocks are a gun minus power down and a short shot power down, and you cannot do anything but walk through them. What evil is in your heart, Sunsoft? What is that about?
Yeah, and I guess it adds another layer to gameplay, so maybe that is something, but yeah, it really got to the point where when I got what I wanted, if I would get past the power-up, turn around and shoot it to see what it was, and then move on. And that didn't always feel great, but I guess not the worst thing.
No, it slows things down to have to be that much more cautious of the things that you are, I mean, supposed to be collecting. And it's not like these are few and far between. There are destructive blocks with power-ups in them everywhere because there's so many power-ups. And so you don't want to just ignore those because maybe you need health. Maybe you need a 1-up.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to see if you can pick up a better gun because all you have right now is the basic one or the short range one or whatever, and you're hoping for something better. Like, it does not behoove you to just walk past them all the time.
Yeah.
So the idea that you have to go forward and then like backtrack to try and shoot them to safely see if there's something in them, which by the way won't even work because some of them are tucked into levels. Like, that's just not possible to do for all of them. It's just annoying. Like you were saying, it's not the end of the world. It's not enough to make me hate the game or anything, but it was just like, wow. It had to be designed purposely, you know? This was not an accident.
100%.
They had to do this on purpose. And it's just like, why? The game would be so much more accessible, more fun to get through without that. It just kind of like, it's like walking with a rock in your shoe. You know, it's just like you're enjoying walking, going on a hike, being out in nature or whatever. But man, this rock in my shoe is really kind of putting a damper on my day.
Yeah, I could see some people appreciating, you know, the kind of little bit of extra strategy or whatever you want to call it. I didn't mind it too much because I found out pretty quickly just avoid them once I got what I wanted. But also, yeah, it was a little frustrating, and It was a mechanic that I didn't particularly enjoy, but again, I could see someone thinking that that is a net positive to the game.
If there was a timer, I would be a lot angrier about it. Like if they were literally wasting your time, that you needed to make sure that you weren't going to lose the level or something, I would be a lot more upset that it was in there. But otherwise, it's just kind of like, you jerks. You know, I just want to look at the team and be like, you scamps. It's annoying. I don't know that I'd call it egregious. It wasn't enough to really turn me off on the game. The bigger part, and I think this is the last thing that I want to say mechanically, because I do have a lot to say aesthetically about this one, is in that last level before the boss. All of a sudden, the game just turns into an auto-scroller, like an auto-scrolling platformer. And one, I already hate that. And two, they exercise this malicious game design even further in this level, because you're auto-scrolling and jumping on these, you know, tight platforms, and they always seem to put an enemy basically right where you will land your jump.
Yeah.
And they don't die in one hit. They take multiple hits to destroy, and I can't confirm because you can't really stand still enough to test, but it really seems like the particular enemies in this level, I think there's some sort of like cannon or something, they shoot when you shoot. So if you try to like mash the button to hit them multiple times to try and blow them up as fast as possible, they retaliate with like 3 bullets all at once, like just in rapid succession. So it was really, really frustrating. It was a difficulty spike that did not match with the rest of the game, and was just really, really frustrating to have be like just this wall that they put up right at the end. The only thing I can think to compare it to that we have had so far, and this isn't the end of the game in this instance, but just like another instance of a game that we've already played, having a section like this that just really got under my skin in a bad way, was Wizards and Warriors, Fortress of Fear. Right? That's what it was, Jeff?
Yeah.
Okay. Phew, I was making sure I got that one right.
Technically, Wizards and Warriors X. So,
I see. I knew there was something. Dang, I was so close.
Yeah.
I can get Fist of the North Star 10 big brawls for King of the Universe. But in that game, when you get to that stupid skull door.
Oh, that skull door.
That's another part that, like, even if I had liked that game more than I did, that part was just insurmountably frustrating. And that's how it feels here. I know if I really, really grinded my nose against that level enough, I would make it through, which is why I said that if I had done it with a save state, I probably would have been able to do it just fine. But doing it through regular gameplay, it was just annoying. Even with as generous as this game is with continues, like, you don't lose your power-ups, you get to start over, you know, at the level that you died. There's no checkpoints or anything, but they're still pretty generous about it. Even then, it was still not enough. And I had to turn it off and go do other things. So not a fun final level.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't have anything else on the mechanics, so I think we can take a quick ad break and then get back to the creative discussion.
Yippee, ad break.
Outlaws and ruffians have had it their way out in the Wild West for too long. But someone's coming to bring them to justice. And justice is colored green. Caro Caro Cowboy is a brand new platformer for the Game Boy Color and Analog Pocket. Our faithful peacekeeper is a frog named Caro Caro, on a journey to wrangle the Wild West's most dangerous outlaws and bring peace to the wide open plains. With a sticky tongue and his trusty 6-shooter, he'll face dastardly foes, perilous platforming, and intense shootouts across deserts, mines, mountains, trains, forests, and beyond. Caro Caro Cowboy by Metagame Mike. That's Kero Cowboy. Out now on Steam and itch.io. So giddy up now, partner, and help Caro Caro take back the West.
Dang it!
What's up, sport?
This game is too hard.
Aw, don't let it get you down. Why not take a break and listen to the Critical DMG podcast?
How would that help me?
It won't.
Then why would I listen to a show about two old people talking about Game Boy games for an hour?
Hey!
I think I'll just go back to Minecraft.
And we're back. Oh, I should have said and we're bat. Dang.
Oh, missed opportunity.
Missed opportunities. Anyway, okay. First things first, I kind of expected it because I had already played the Batman game on the NES, and it's literally made by some of the same people, including, I think, the musicians, but the music here is really good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I went back and listened specifically for the music because, my first playthrough, I didn't quite listen to it too much. But yeah, it's very good.
Even if you hadn't, gone back to listen to it or thought much about it, like as you were playing, the title alone, like the intro alone is really solid. Like it sets you up for Batman game pretty much right off the bat. Oh my God. Totally unintentional.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think the music progresses through each level and feels pretty good. The cathedral level, the last level, or stage 4, felt very kind of like Castlevania to me, but also kind of gave that cathedral-y vibe. And I think the music was very good. I also think the sound effects were implemented very well. I think, they sounded good, all of that, but they were also kind of muted in a way that they weren't overpowering or annoying or anything like that. So I liked that. I thought that was like a very good touch that they kind of, muted them just a little bit.
Yeah, it was almost just kind of like, the mix was a little bit better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like they had tuned the audio levels on things just a little bit better, but like the sounds were good. They had impact, when you are laying out a bad guy. You have, the shot noises, and the batarangs make little like whooshy sounds when you've got the batarang gun and things like that. Like it's all good. Not grating, not like weird squealy noises, like all of the sounds I either didn't really pay much attention to or I thought were pretty good. So yeah, I agree there.
Yep.
I love Dinky Batman. As soon as he saunters up onto the screen, your Batman sprite, I was in love. I was like, oh my God, I love this. I love how they did not even try to make him look intimidating or whatever. He looks like a Mighty Max action figure.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I love it. I love his little run. I love how he's just like holding this like black rectangle in front of him for the pistol. I love his jump. That like Dinky Batman is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it is very clear. I mean, the cutscenes are very obviously Batman and kind of a more Batman style.
They're great. They're I mean, honestly, kind of gorgeous to look at.
But even, the little sprite, you can tell it's Batman. The only thing that would maybe give you pause is, the fact that he very clearly has a gun, and that is very not Batman.
Right.
But aside from that, I think it looks very Batman. It starts with the Batman logo on the title screen. All of it very much so feels Batman. And as far as aesthetics go, honestly, when I played through it the first time, I kind of felt like it was just another game that was reskinned as Batman. But after looking at the movie and all of that, it does follow the movie quite well. So I can get that. But I think the shooting and the gun and all of that just thematically threw me off so much.
Yeah.
That I was kind of like, this was something else that was reskinned.
Yeah, I mean, the NES Batman is the same way. I mean, you are punching bad guys in that one, and you get like pickups that you can use that are weapons, and they're like bombs and batarangs and things like that. So it's at least a little more, oh, Batman's just like punching guys instead of, no, literally Batman is just running around with a gun, shooting all these guys. So like, I get it. Definitely a little like disjointed from, what you would think or expect of Batman.
Yeah.
When you have the Batarang pickup, it feels a little better. You can almost be like, yeah, he's, he's shooting the Batarangs, whatever. But that aside, like just like removing the fact that, oh, Batman's got a gun in this one, I think that they do a really good job. We have not had anything really in the way of full cutscenes like we have had here. I mean, they have Batman and Commissioner Gordon on screen. They've got, Batman talking to Joker. There's a Batmobile. There's the Batwing. Like, and they are not full screen because they do keep probably like the bottom third or maybe even bottom half of the screen for like dialogue, depending on what scene. But I mean, even the title, even the Batman logo comes in with this like cool, it's like a rotating effect that it's going for.
Yeah. I'll say I did not like the rotating, flipping animations. So yeah, the title screen, the Batman logo is kind of doing a barrel roll, kind of like hot dog style, like top to bottom. And when you start a level, the levels also do that.
Yeah, that I didn't like. I liked it with the logo. I didn't really like it so much with the levels themselves.
Yeah, and it wasn't, egregious or really bad. I just didn't think it looked particularly good. And the levels you can skip through if you push a button, so it's not a bad thing.
Right.
It was interesting. It was new, something we hadn't seen.
It feels like a flex.
I could see that, yeah.
It feels like, wow, look what we can do on the Game Boy. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm saying that genuinely, like for the time when these games were coming out, and especially now that, we've played some of the Japanese only releases that didn't come to the States. Hey, anyone, patreon.com/criticaldmg pod. But like, we've played through some of those and we've seen some stuff, we've seen some interesting tricks on the Game Boy so far, but I don't think that we've seen anything really like this apart from maybe Nemesis. I think Nemesis also does some pretty interesting stuff graphically, but it really just kind of feels like a flex. It really just kind of feels like, wow, look what these developers are able to do on the Game Boy with this game.
Yeah, and I could see it being, maybe a bit of a call to a little bit older superhero Batman, cartoons and, even the live action where the transitions are a little bit more animated like that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I could see potentially it being a bit of a call to that as well. So maybe a little of both.
That's true. Yeah, I could see that.
In practice, I just didn't think it looked good, but I'm not going to complain about it too much.
You can skip it. Like literally you can just press the start button and it stops. Like,
yep.
That's pretty much what I was doing. I let it run most of the time just because I was kind of like gathering my thoughts. Usually if I was trying to finish up writing a note, I would just kind of let it run because it does kind of take a little while for each level to start if you don't push the button to like skip that stuff.
Yeah.
But once I stopped and I was just like moving through it, it's whatever. You can literally just take it or leave it. The game overall feels a lot like that. There's a lot of stuff that's like very fair, like very accessible. You don't like the effects that they're doing with the screen flips and stuff? Okay, just skip it. Press the button and skip it. You don't like the fact that, oh, if you die in this game, you have to start all over. You lose all your stuff, Nemesis. No. You get to keep all your power-ups, whatever. So, it really does feel accessible in that way that I do appreciate. And I think speaking on accessibility, I do think everything is readable here. I don't know that I was ever confused by any of the power-ups. They look easy enough to differentiate, even though they are just like letters for the most part. I love the little mini Batman cowl for the 1-up. I think that's really cute.
Yeah.
You know, none of the bullets and stuff on screen when the enemies are firing at you are like hard to notice.
Yeah.
For a game with as much going on as this one has, there's not really a lot of flickering or like stuff popping in and out of the screen.
Agreed.
Kind of a complete package in that way. Like very, very approachable.
Yeah, and a lot of the games that have had projectiles that we've played, it kind of limits, you know, maybe 3 seems to be a number. But yeah, this one you could get up to, I think 7 was the max kind of number of projectiles, and it felt good. It felt smooth. The only power-up that I didn't really know what it was until I looked at the manual was the power down. It almost looked like kind of like a screaming face to me, but I could very clearly tell that it was different than the rest. So it's supposed to be an inverted version of the power up, which is a pistol.
Right.
It was easy to tell apart. That was the one that I had no idea what it actually was supposed to be, but I could tell that it was bad.
The gun pickups are literally just T, N, S, you know, whatever it's supposed to be. I do like the enemy sprites. Did you have a favorite in this game? Because there were some pretty cute ones. Lots of cute robots.
My favorite was the duck balloons in the flying section.
Oh, yeah. The flying section had some pretty cute ones. Like they're like little zeppelins that come at you from different sides.
Yeah, the little blimps were pretty cool as well.
There were these, I don't know if they were supposed to be motorcycles or little like 2-wheel robots or something, but they're only in one stage as far as I remember, and they just kind of like go across the screen, and if you jump over them, they'll like turn around and backtrack to come get you. They don't shoot any projectiles or anything at you. They just kind of like trundle across the screen.
Yeah.
Just very nondescript. They were just so kind of bland compared to all of the rest of the stuff going on that it was really charming to me. You know, there's lots of weird technological future-y kind of cannons, and then there's also what looks to be like 1920s like mobster guys at you at the same time. So like it's a mishmash, but I feel it fits for what, you know, you might think of when you think of Batman.
Yeah, I thought they were all very good.
I think that pretty much does it for me, though. I'm ready to wrap it up.
Agreed.
I'm ready to hang up the cape and cowl here. So go ahead. You can take it first. Recommended? Yes, worth batteries?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you like Batman and you don't care that he's shooting things and kind of breaking that universe,
sure.
I think it's fun. I think it is a good showing for, you know, an action platformer. I'm still kind of like the yes asterisk. I could see people not enjoying this for multiple reasons.
Sure.
But I think it was enjoyable, and first playthrough is around an hour. That feels good to me. You know, that feels about right. So I'm happy with that, but still not a full-blown yes.
I am 100%. I think this was a really good game. I don't want to undersell the difficulty again, just because we play a lot of Game Boy games, and I have played lots of games like this one that were definitely harder than this, but I don't want to undersell the difficulty. If you aren't someone who plays lots of, you know, action platformers, especially these older ones where they do this kind of malicious game design now and again, you might struggle more than Jeff or I potentially did.
Yeah.
There is some points throughout the game where jumps are dubious, enemy placement is annoying. There's moving platforms in a couple sections, and the way Batman jumps in this game definitely doesn't make you confident that you're going to land on the next platform all the time.
Yeah.
So, like, don't mistake us making our way through it pretty easily as that it is without challenge. So I can definitely see some people bouncing off of it for that, but I would still recommend this one. Definitely worth the batteries, and it really feels like the kind of game that if you just are looking for something that you can kind of like check off your backlog or put as, you know, just a game that you managed to beat in your spare time or something, you could easily sit down and knock this game out in like an afternoon.
Yeah.
You could totally take this at a more leisurely pace and get through it in just, a few hours in an afternoon or while you're sitting around before bed or something like that. It absolutely slots into that kind of game, which I really feel is the strength of the Game Boy overall. And that probably does lean into why I would recommend it so highly, because you could literally just pop it in your Game Boy, park your butt for a few hours and get through this one without really like pulling your hair out about it, and have a good time out once you've come out the other side.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right. Well, now it's time for Batman quiz.
Batman quiz. Going in, I am 78%. We will see how Batman does for me.
He's a superhero. You've got to come out of this one 3 out of 3. Otherwise, Batman personally will have failed you.
Otherwise, he'll hunt me down. He'll vigilante me.
This is the alley where I failed the quiz.
All right, question 1.
Okay. As we mentioned in the development background at the beginning of the show, some of the staff that worked on the NES version of Batman was retained by Sunsoft to work on this Game Boy version as well. Maybe since they were already old hands at making a game like this one, those developers at Sunsoft slipped in some comments that were hidden away in the code of Batman the video game. Usually it was just a line or two, but one of the comments is adorably revealing of whoever penned it, as it's just a lighthearted admission of their fondness for one of the games that we've already covered here on the show. What did this hidden code comment say? A. Asmik-kun deserves more love. B. Tetris on the Game Boy is interesting after all. C. I wish I was in Sarasa Land with Mario. Or D. I'd rather be playing baseball.
I would not trust a person who said A or D. I'm going to go with C, because this game does feel so much more like Mario than in any of the others. I feel like it takes inspiration from that, so I'm going to go with C.
Okay, a pretty confident answer. You're wrong.
Aww.
It's B, but I like your confidence there.
Yeah, I guess, like, of course Tetris is interesting, but I guess maybe in 1990 it was a bit different.
Thanks to the cutting room floor, which is awesome. I love looking all the time when I do research for these things to see if any of the games that I have to look up have any little tidbits over there. But thanks to cutting room floor for digging these comments out of the game's code, we know that this comment, and then as well as there were some others, they were all hidden away in the game for, I guess, no one in particular to find one day. I don't really know, but I love that they did it. Among the handful of messages in the code are, quote, please continue to give your regards to Sunsoft. And there's even a silly warning that says, quote, hey, don't peek at the program. This message, though, about Tetris in full reads, quote, Tetris on the Game Boy is interesting after all. Just recently, I ended up playing Tetris through the night. So, they were a recent convert, and it was obviously detrimental to them.
Interesting. Well, not off to a good start. Hopefully Batman will accept this.
I'm going to launch the bat signal here imminently. Okay. Question 2. In a print ad for Batman the video game, Sunsoft advertises the game as being how you can, quote, put Gotham City in the palm of your hand. The ad shows a shiny new box for the game held in a gloved hand in what appears to be like an industrial cityscape at night or something. Very, very Batman. There's also a few screenshots of different scenes from the game off to the side, but down at the bottom corner beneath those images is a smaller box containing mostly text. What's in this box? A. a cutout mailer to receive the, quote, free Sunsoft game time news. B. Legal information about refunds for Sunsoft games. C. A positive write-up from a Batman comics artist of the era. Or D. A written threat from the Joker to buy the game or else.
I'm going to go with mail-in information. I feel like that makes sense for ads of the time.
It does, and you're right. It was A.
Let's go. At least I didn't go 04,
Yep.
3, so Batman can't be too mad at me.
That's true. I'll turn the bat signal off. Similar to like Q-Billion, that game also had one of these.
Mm-hmm.
You would fill out this little mailer and you would send it to Libertyville, Illinois, and you could subscribe to a free print publication called the Sunsoft Game Time News. And actually, thanks to retromags.com and user eDay, I was actually able to read through some of the preserved issues of this publication to see sections about Sunsoft game tips, and there's jokes and puzzles and previews for upcoming games. It was actually really cute. My favorite section, though, was the Super Sunsofter piece, which is always at like the front of all of these publications, and it shows off a specially selected kid gamer to be given like a little showcase about them. And it says like what their favorite Sunsoft games were, of course, and just like a picture of them. And it was just a really wholesome little like fan segment of the time that was probably really special for these kids like 3 decades ago or whatever. So it was so charming. And I mean, the kids got a free game out of it. Like any kid who got a Super Sunsoft or Spotlight or whatever got a free Sunsoft game of their choice. So like,
nice.
Come on.
Yeah.
I love that. That's one of my favorite things about doing this is I love seeing the stuff like that. It's just so charming. Okay. Ready to round it out with question 3.
Let's do it.
While both the NES version of Batman and the Game Boy version of Batman that we played are both based on the 1989 movie starring Michael Keaton, the Game Boy version does try to be a little more faithful than the NES version ever was. Apart from a bunch of non-movie locales and the appearances of multiple other DC villain characters that were never in the movie, the game overall came off looking and feeling more like comics Batman than the one that audiences of the time would have been seeing on theater screens. And that's probably because, according to an archived Hardcore Gaming 101 article from all the way back in 2014 by Chris Rassa, it turns out that a prototype version of the NES Batman game was actually originally much more like the comic than the movie in the first place, including a pretty major change. What I want to know is it true or false that in this original NES Batman prototype, the final boss fight would have still been with the Joker?
I want to say there's a good chance that it was the Joker, because the Joker is such an iconic Batman villain. Mm-hmm. But I feel like if it were, then it wouldn't be notable. So I'm going to go with false, because I think if it was the Joker, then it wouldn't be like notable to bring up. I don't know if that makes sense.
You're right. It is false.
Let's go.
The Joker is still present in the game, and the prototype version does have you bursting into an office that he's hiding in and like punching him in the face at the end of the game. But the final fight isn't against the Joker. He's just like the final cutscene. So the final fight is actually against the napalm-wielding villain Firebug.
I have no idea who that is.
I had to look it up on like multiple wikis. I had no clue. No, sorry, Batman. Sorry, Firebug fans. I don't know. But in the published version, Firebug is still in the game, but he's the second to last boss instead. So in the released one, you do actually fight the Joker.
Got it. Yeah, they departed quite a bit from, I guess, from the movie.
Yeah.
With that, 2 for 3. Not
pretty good.
Not horrible. Not helping my score much, but not horrible.
All right. Well, time for everybody else's question.
Yes.
So, audience question for Kicks was about clones of Kicks. There has been a lot of them. All kinds, for all different systems. But one I specifically wanted to talk about was on the Super Nintendo. And it took a lot of the Kicks gameplay, but just dressed it up in like anime characters and stuff. So I was curious if anybody knew about this game and could tell me what it was called. Jeff, I would be flabbergasted.
I have no idea.
Good, my flabbers don't have to gas themselves. It's a Super Nintendo game called Kakuma Night in Busyland. Weird title, but the reason is that it's actually a pun in Japanese. So in Japanese, Kakuma Naito means must surround, essentially, which is what you're doing in Kicks. Like you're surrounding the field to block off different areas. So the name Kakuma Night is a pun on the word Kakuma Naito. I think that that's adorable. I love that kind of stuff. And the game is full of others like that. There's an evil queen named Wagamama, which is the Japanese word for selfish or self-indulgent, which I also think is really funny. So I've played this one on Super Nintendo a long time ago. I just never really knew all these little facts about it. I always just kind of wondered, like, why is it named this? But now everybody knows.
Now we know.
On to the Batman question. Apart from the Super Sunsofter, kids in the 90s could also send in all kinds of other things to the Sunsoft Game Time News, you know, in hopes of getting put in their next issue and maybe even getting some free merch. They accepted jokes, they accepted questions, and they even accepted high scores from kids from all over the US. And if you managed a high score, or even just game completion for titles that they made without a high score table, so like Blaster Master, you just had to beat the game, you could send in a picture for proof, and a prize might come your way, if you made it into the magazine anyway. It wasn't a game, and it wasn't necessarily a special write-up. What was the prize that you could get for sending in your high score proof to the Sunsoft Game Time News?
Batman.
But they couldn't just give everybody a Batman. The Sunsoft Game Time News ran for years.
He just came and visited. He just,
Oh, that's true.
knocked on your window at night. And that was it.
That's wild. That's wild to think about.
Yeah. Strangely, not a lot of people liked it. Who would have thought?
They stopped sending in high scores really fast, actually, everybody. It was really funny in reading some of these. They're like, they accepted like jokes. There were like knock jokes and like handwritten raps from children sent in for this. Very delightful. You should get on retromags.com and check some of these out because they are quite charming.
I might have to do that. Thanks everyone for listening. A little bit of a special outro. Because if you would like to support us further, you can check out our Patreon. As Tony said earlier, patreon.com/criticaldmgpod. Next week, we're going to be launching our second audio newsletter. I'm going to be covering, based on popular demand from a few friends of the show, Void Stranger. I'll also be doing some history and lore stuff, so if that interests you, those are the segments that I'm going to cover.
And I will be talking about a few random games I've been playing here and there. And also, Jeff and I are going to give our overall rankings for the games that we've been playing in 1990.
Yep.
We've been keeping track of those things outside of the show. And we're going to just talk about some top favorites, some top not so favorites, and maybe a little bit of everything in between.
Yeah, you can join Patreon for free to stay up to date on when we release our main episodes and get a written newsletter kind of explaining what we're going to be talking about. And then the audio newsletter is $3. You can either sign up for monthly membership or you can buy any audio newsletters that float your boat a la carte. If that's something that interests you, head over to our Patreon and we'd really appreciate it.
Otherwise, just do all the usual stuff. like, share, subscribe, comment, review.
Yep.
I know that sounds like a lot of things. You don't have to do all of those things, but we would appreciate it.
Yeah, and as always, really, we just thank you for listening at all. So thank you.
Exactly.
But that brings us to an end of our Batman the Video Game episode. So our first kind of superhero episode. Next week, we will be talking about Shanghai.
Mahjong.
Yeah.
But not normal Mahjong.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with this. I did know it was Mahjong, but we'll...
You might have played this on something else.
Possibly, yeah.
Like, previously. Because it's not Mahjong. Like, it's like a variant single-player Mahjong.
Yeah.
So...
Join us next week when we talk about it.
Yep. See everybody then.
Bye-bye.